Hey, good people, man. This your guy, Mr. Chauncey Reed. Hey, and just like always, man, go ahead, drop your city, your state, where you're actually hopping on from. So hopefully, we can add some value to what you already have going on in your life, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, real quick, man, what I wanted to do was kind of recap, of course, the first week of Financial Literacy Month, all right? So, let's start off with, day one, all right? Talking about what is financial literacy. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that financial literacy is basically understanding how to actually manage our money, right? That's the biggest thing that we got to understand, how money affects us in our lives, because that's what's going to give us the biggest impact, right? So that I'm going already into why we need to understand more about our money and why financial literacy is so important. One is because of the impact that it will have on our lives, ladies and gentlemen. When you have financial literacy in your life, can't nobody tell you certain things. They can't tell you any falsehoods about your money. I talked about it being empowered by confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you now, once I know me personally, once I started learning more and more about my own money, ladies and gentlemen, there's certain things that you can't tell me. There's certain things that you walk with a different swag, ladies and gentlemen. Man, your chest be up, your head be high. Can't nobody tell you nothing else about it. And then the most beautiful thing behind it is the fact that it gives you stability. Because you already know when things come up and things happen, or it's something that you want to do, if you know how much money you have, how much money that you have backing you, can't nobody change that, ladies and gentlemen. So let's talk about day two, okay? With day two, what happened is this. We talked about setting up smart financial goals, okay? When I say smart, we're talking about specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, okay? What do you mean by that? Specific. In other words, you have to clearly define the things that you really want to achieve, i.e., instead of saying things like, I want to save money, no, man, we want to say, okay, I want to save $50 a week. Make sense? Okay, measurable. We want to make sure that we actually quantify that. So we got to make sure that we're tracking so that we can hit that $50 target every week. Okay, S-M-A, achievable. Ladies and gentlemen, it's got to be realistic. If you can't save $50 a week, we got to get to a point where we can either reach that, or we have to start somewhere like $5, $10, something like that, so that we know that we can hit it. Achievable. I'm sorry. I already talked about achievable. Talked about relevant. Time bound. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't just say, yeah, I'm going to save this much money for just this much money. No, put a time frame on it. Go ahead and say, okay, within the next 6 months, I'm going to save $50 a week. Now you have a true smart goal. All right, grab on the sheet here. So make sure that I stay on track with y'all, ladies and gentlemen. All right, day 3. All right, we talked about budgeting. Budgeting 101. Here's the thing when it comes to budgeting. A budget is like a personal roadmap when it comes to the money that you have coming into your household. All right, you have to understand, okay, this is the amount of money that's coming in. These are my expenses, okay? We got to ensure that, hey, we know how much we need to live daily, all right? And the most important main goal that we want to make sure that we know is that we're spending less, hopefully not equal, than the amount we're coming in. And we have to live within our means, okay? Most people tell you below the means, but we can't exceed that, which a lot of people do, all right? We'll talk more about that this following week, okay? But day 4, we talked about needs versus wants, okay? Yes, we fell into the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. So within the weekend, we understand a lot of people will supersede their wants versus their needs. When we talk about needs, we're talking about things like the basics, all right? Like food, housing, transportation, things that we know we need to do the things we want and need to do weekly, daily, things like that, versus our wants, like that new video game, that new outfit, all right, those new shoes, eating out at restaurants. We gotta ensure that we have to make sure that we are being very careful when it comes to our needs versus our wants. Okay, we have to. Day 5, what we talked about was understanding your pay stub. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to your pay stub, here's the thing. We gotta understand the difference between what we gross, that amount, that everything that comes in our check, versus our net. When we put that net up, and then what we actually take home. Okay. Plus, we gotta understand the things that come out of there, especially when it comes to deductions. Things like the taxes. Let's just go there, right? Woo. We got Social Security taxes, Medicaid taxes, federal taxes, state taxes, man, just taxes on taxes on taxes. We gotta ensure we know what's coming out of our check, ladies and gentlemen, because we control that, especially through your W-4 when you first got on your job, ladies and gentlemen. You're the one that tells your job how much money to take out. So make sure we go back and revisit that, okay? And now on day 6, all right, what we talked about was, building an emergency fund. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Emergencies are going to happen. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much financial literacy you have. Here's the thing. Car repairs, you're going to need them. Medical bills can come up. All right? A job loss. We see it happening now. So imagine if a lot of people already had a year emergency fund. It can help sustain you until you get that next job. All right, so you don't end up having to swipe that credit card on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to recap the things we talked about this week. So, if you would like any of the worksheets that we have for this week, man, DM me, drop your email in the comments. So hopefully we can get that to you, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, and just continue to like this, follow us. Hey, share this with somebody who could actually use this information, all right? Hey, can't wait till this next upcoming week, ladies and gentlemen. Man, y'all have a great day and a blessed week.